Well, hello there. How is everyone? You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. I'm here. I'm running late, but I'm here. I don't know what day it is or what time it is. This is the midweek hump, baby. It's midweek hump. You're looking absolutely amazing. And we all love a midweek hump. And in this video, of which I'm going to get straight into the meat and potatoes, because this is possibly, quite possibly, one of the most anticipated things since, I don't know, a cold pizza after a night on the piss. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about none other than the Idaho 4 Wendy house. Because now, even though we won't see it in trial, they were so proud of it, so very proud of it, that they decided that they would show us it anyway. So we get to see it. Do you want to see it? I know you do. Here we go. Let's have a look at this Wendy house. Model of Moscow home built for Brian Kohberger murder trial. See for yourself. When I first read that, I thought they said model of Moscow home built for Brian Kohberger. I thought, fuck, is that where they're going to house him? They've made him a little mock-up of the 112, and then the penny dropped. I think I had to pay for this. There's an article that I'm going to cover later that some of you may have already seen. I had to pay for that as well. What is it with me having to pay to read articles? There we go. There's old Santa. Leading up to Brian Kohberger's anticipated capital murder trial, attorneys on each side clashed over a host of elements that could be presented to jurors, including a college assignment about crime scenes and a 3D model of the home in Moscow where four University of Idaho students were killed. I haven't had a lot of sleep, by the way, so my brain's not quite with my mouth. So what's the word? Do bear with me, the phrase. Over objections from the defense, Judge Stephen Hippler, not Jason Hippler, Stephen Hippler, approved the house model, of course he did, for use with eyewitnesses, not eyewitnesses, just witnesses in the courtroom for demonstrative purposes only, meaning it could not be considered a piece of evidence. Why have it in there then? Why have it in there? If it's not being considered as a piece of evidence, why? Is it just to show off the skills of... And it makes you laugh. They went through all of the hassle of going in there and doing this LiDAR sensor and measuring everything. State-of-the-art technology to get everything, chef's kiss, and then produce this shit show, which you're going to see in a second. He also allowed the prosecution's push to try to admit as evidence the college term paper Kohberger completed while studying DeSales University in Pennsylvania to illustrate his knowledge of process and crime scenes. What they're basically saying is Hitler allowed them to do whatever they wanted, while simultaneously not allowing the defense to do anything that they wanted. But that's by the by. Kohberger, 30, later agreed to plead guilty to the four murders in a deal to avoid the death penalty, which ended the need for a trial. Hitler sentenced him last week to consecutive life prison terms with no chance of parole. The four victims of the University of Idaho undergraduates, Kayla Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, both 21, and Xana Knodel and Ethan Chapin, both 20. The three women rented the home at 1122 King Road with two other female roommates, and Chapin was Knodel's boyfriend and slept over for the night. Like the term paper, the not-to-scale model the FBI produced is no longer of use for the state's planned purpose at trial. What was the purpose at trial? Bearing in mind that earlier on it was said that it couldn't be used as evidence. So I have to consider and ask, what was the purpose of it then? What was the purpose of it? The 4-foot-tall King Road house model on wheels has not before been seen by the public, but the Latah County Prosecutor's Office provided image of it to the Idaho Statement in response to a public records request. And there we have it. There she blows. There she blows. That is the model. Obviously, it doesn't even have 1122 on there. Doesn't have the ladder. Doesn't have like the staining on the top here either. Very clean. This is probably what it looked like when it was very first built. And you've even got a little plaque on there, look, with a little number and north and an arrow. So 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho. Demonstrative model, not to scale. So not even to scale. All of that LiDAR sensor measurements, not even to scale. The FBI built a not-to-scale model of the home at 1122 King Road in Moscow, where 4 University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed in November 2022 for Brian Koberger's scheduled murder trial in Boise, Latah County Prosecuting Attorney's Office provided. Again, not to scale, FBI getting involved. The only thing I can think of is they literally had fuck all better to do and nothing better to spend the taxpayers' hard-earned quiddage on. The University of Idaho took control of the King Road property in spring 2023 after its prior owner donated it following the murders. Against the wishes of some of the victims' families, the university razed the home in late December 2023, almost a year to the day of Koberger's arrest. Neither the defense nor the prosecution opposed its demolition ahead of the expected trial, which remains dodgy as fuck even to this day. In the absence of the real thing, which they could have had the real thing, it was there. The university thought they'd just knock it down. Not only knock it down, but smash it to smithereens, then bury it. Including as the trial moved to Moscow, 300 miles south to Boise, the prosecution team intended for the model to help jurors grasp spatial relationships inside and outside the 3-story, 6-bedroom former college home during witness testimony, they said in court. But we go back, not going to be used as evidence. So a visual aid to help grasp spatial relationships while simultaneously not being to scale. So what spatial relationship does it? What is the relationship with? Because it's not anything that is bound in reality. It just bears a resemblance. It's a copy, not to scale, and you don't really learn anything from it whatsoever. No different than photographs. Again, I just don't really see the point. Our intent is simply to have this as a tool to help witnesses explain their testimony and help the jury understand. So to help witnesses explain their testimony. Which witnesses? The ones who were in the house and didn't call 911 for 8 hours. Let's look at this model and see whether that explains it. Heaven forbid. Fuck no, it still doesn't, and that still remains a mystery. There was me thinking that model was going to answer all the questions. Defense made fiery objection to the model, and Taylor, Koberger's lead attorney, countered that the defense had not received details about the model through the legal process of discovery to meet requirements of the rules of evidence. For Hitler to permit the FBI's mock-up would violate her client's constitutional rights, she said. This is an unfair surprise to Mr. Koberger, Taylor told the court in April. The jury can place great weight on that, and it might not be actual. It could skew the testimony. It could skew the truth. 2 other examples of this: bushy eyebrows. Bushy eyebrows, never ever mentioned whatsoever. It wasn't until way later that we would hear about bushy eyebrows. So we've got the house that is now knocked down, where they could lean on that to say that, yeah, I can't work out what the eyebrows, and the other one eludes me. I know that there is very specific things. The bushy eyebrows, the stalking, for instance, is another one where they very much tried to push this stalker narrative, which you'll see in the video number 2, that just completely falls to pieces, that claim. Hitler, however, reasoned that the defense had equal access to the crime scene before it was knocked down and still had upward of 4 months to prepare its own use of the diagram ahead of what was to be an August trial before Koberger reached a plea deal. It is not uncommon for demonstrative exhibits to be disclosed. Close to trial, he added, there is a significant distinction between demonstrative trial exhibits or trial models, charts, things of that nature, and attempts to use things for evidentiary value in and of themselves, Hitler said, and the more complex, it's not particularly different than a drawing by a witness or something like that. Bull fucking shit. Bullshit. that is much different than a drawing in the sense that you can manipulate the way that you explain this and make things look like if someone's querying the time frame, for instance, and how did someone do this in this period of time, they'll look at that model and you won't get out of your head because you'll think, well, that house is a lot smaller than I thought it was. Because people are stupid. People are fucking stupid. You only have to look around the community and some of the things what some people say, and you know that some people will look at that model and it will literally make them consider that this crime and the time frame was quick. Was quick because of that, because it was small. Jurors and the public could have expected to see the house model as a mainstay in the courtroom during the testimony. That was to include investigators, Thompson said. And it says Koberger received his bachelor's degree from DeSales. Is it going to talk about anything to do with this house? In the immediacy of Koberger's plea, Ramsland broke her silence and told the New York Times she recalled him as respectful, polite, and genuinely engaged with the material. In her criminal justice courses, initially Ramsland said she thought case investigators must have arrested the wrong man before coming to believe his culpability. I just don't get it. I wasn't surprised by the plea once the judge took away every option, that he couldn't use his alibi. He couldn't use an alternative suspect. There's nothing left, Ramsland told the Times. And now he's facing a lot of evidence piled up and the death penalty, so it did not surprise me. Well, that's not necessarily saying that she knows that he's guilty now. That just means that she understands that he be fucked. He had nowhere else to go but to plea, which we've said he probably did. He could have just plead out because he just didn't want to be executed. Funny that. Like we've just seen this stop, haven't we? This new video that's floating around with him with his seatbelt thing, where he turns, was you wearing your seatbelt? Nah, no, definitely not. And then later on, it's almost like he says, like when you asked me if I'd worn my seatbelt, if I'd have said yeah I was, so if I'd have lied, could I have got away with it? That's what he basically meant. And the bloke was like, well, I didn't say anything up to then, so basically, just, yeah, if you'd have kept your mouth shut, you'd have got away with it. But Brian Koberger, I hate to say it, the more you see, like even that interaction, the guy just doesn't come across as a stone cold killer. He comes across a bit of an idiot, a bit of a foot in mouth idiot. Do you know what I mean? Oh yeah, I weren't wearing a seatbelt, and I was speeding. I was doing 42 in a 30, whatever it was. I don't know, but he just killer, mate. And and there's this as well. Briefly, which this it just proves just how fucked that crime scene was. Like, crime scene scenario final. The first thing to be done is block off the crime scene in order to avoid crime scene contamination. Massive fail. Massive fail. The theory of transfer states that we bring something with us to the crime scene and take something away, thus skewing the crime scene from the original state by contamination. This is because the original state of the crime scene was left by the criminal suspect. A lack of contamination allows the scene to be a snapshot in time. The curious must be noted and immediately evicted from the scene. People to be kept out of the scene, including unauthorized civilians, and any more of the absolute minimum number of law enforcement agents and forensics. There was people in and out of there like it was a fucking, oh no, like selling tickets. And half of them weren't even wearing proper protective gear. You even had that dumb fuck captain going around, driving around in a U-Haul van. U-Haul van! I'm here in my U-Haul. What the fuck was he doing in a U-Haul van? But anyway, yeah, this entire thing was fucked. This entire crime scene was fucked. Did someone say Jean-Benet Ramsey, another crime scene that was fucked by law enforcement at the start? But there you go, that's by the by. But anyway, I thought I'd bring it out. The model, that is the model. We thought we'd never see it, and we see it. And how many questions does it answer? Like every other fucking document, absolutely jack fucking shit. Yet more questions. Why would you knock the house down, bury it, fuck it off, and then build a not-to-scale model, and then say,
oh, it's to help with spatial recognition.
Spatial what? Idiots. Anyway, love you all. Catch you in video 2 later. Mwah.